Yes, good morning. This is current Chief President Harry J. Stiller, League for Republic Democracy of Australia. Chief President Harry J. Stiller, 10-year tenure, giving stability and freedoms all Australians deserve. Long live the Republic of Australia. You can visit lfdra.org and visit and read our future direction. Mind Freedom Australia. You can visit that page on League for Republic Democracy of Australia, lfdra.org, Mind Freedom Australia, ending mind control weapon gulags that increased under Liberal Labor parties and murders by these weapons, Mind Freedom Australia Facebook page, as well as ending non-integral staffers of mind control weapon gulags in Australia. You can find that at lfdra.org. So go to more and find Mind Freedom Australia. I'm currently in slides of direction under a League for Republic Democracy Government of Australia. There'll be honest and fair taxation and refund. I'm current Chief President Harry J. Stiller. The rollout slide of direction is 8.5% tax rate from the Australian wage minimum and 11.5% tax rate for business over the 1,000 millions per fiscal year and creation of honest and fair refund. Australian wage minimum. Current Chief President Harry J. Stiller. This is rollout slide of direction. Australia wage minimum found at structure of rollout at more times 2 on lfdra.org. So creation of a $33 per hour Australian wage minimum, including trainees and apprentices, 4 weeks paid holiday and 12 personal days a year equals a full-time minimum, including protection of overtime rates after an 8-hour day and on weekend rates, and protection and accountability for employers to pay weekend rates and or overtime rates. Casual load is an extra 15% per hour as an Australian wage minimum, and accountability for employer breaches and practices of slavery, an addition of $50,000 fines and compensation to employees affected by practices of slavery and breaches in the $33 per hour Australian wage minimum, and accountability fines for not paying weekend rates or overtime rates. This will be a Ministry of Fair Work Accountability under a League for Republic Democracy of Australia government. And superannuation rates is a federal minimum of 15% and follow-up accountability. This will be enforced under a Ministry for Fair Work Accountability, including existing legislator of non-allowance of persons outside of Australia to be referred to work inside of Australia and or Republic of Australia. So I'm just moving on to next slide. So there's a few things we'll have to go through the complementary residential rollout under a League for Republic Democracy of Australia government. I'm current Chief President Harry J. Stiller of the League for Republic Democracy of Australia, and the first rollout slide of direction will be land acquisitions, building shadows to car parks, position to solar car park, position in daily building shadows, placement of buildings including wind turbines and unused electricity storage. So moving on to Republic of Australia slide, lfdra.org, League for Republic Democracy of Australia, and long live Republic of Australia. So residential rollout, dense sustainability design, complementary residential rollout, 3 or 4 times in length as the photo in residential rollout design of the complementary residential rollout. So each complementary residential rollout building under a League for Republic Democracy of Australia government. So the complementary residential rollout, 7 floors, 65 metres long or 3 times that, 50 metres wide, 3 bedrooms, lounge, dining, balcony, kitchen, bathrooms, laundry, lifts, security, mail, private courtyards, lobby entrance, solar power car parks and roofs. And so currently a residential rollout at 7 floors will give 13 complementary residential apartments per 7-floor construction for 17 million Australians There'll be dense sustainability or double or triple the size in length of the photo in slides of direction under a League for Republic Democracy Government of Australia. So moving on to the next slide, 2 slides after that, and you can see the building. So complementary residential rollout, Chief President Harry J. Stiller, under a League for Republic Democracy of Australia slide of direction. So budget of expenditure, 450 buildings per 1,000 millions. So 1,000 millions, which equals 1 billion. You can look at the current budget of expenditure and the waste that's in current budget expenditure in Australia. So this will be 450 buildings per the 1,000 millions, which equals 1 billion. And will create 500,000 positions in construction and 70,000 new positions of employment in rollout with budget infrastructure. Under Republic of Australia government, and we are League for Republic Democracy of Australia, current Chief President Harry J. Stiller. So education and the arts rollout. I'm Chief President Harry J. Stiller. Rollout slide, education and the arts, ensuring $200 billion education and education infrastructure spend per fiscal year with scholarships, donation tax, refunds, no matter what education status it is, ensuring the $200 billion is spent every fiscal year in that portfolio, including buffet cafeterias in all educational facilities, buffet cafeterias free under education in Australia for all private, state, and whatever status of education it is. There'll be complimentary cafeteria, buffet style kitchen facilities in all educational facilities Australia-wide, complimentary. The only thing with the education and the arts portfolio, there'll be a Republic of Australia Broadcast Corporation, which will be under the education and the arts portfolio under League for Republic Democracy of Australia, Republic of Australia, Chief President Harry J. Stiller, as an oversight of direction. So on the oversight of direction, there will be a Prime Minister under Chief President Harry J. Stiller, a Deputy Secretary Minister, Minister for Communications, Minister for Military Defence, Minister for the Protection of Health, Minister for Treasury and Homeland Security, Minister for Taxation and Refund, Minister for Education and the Arts, Minister for Trade and Diversity, Minister for Policy Delivery, Minister for Infrastructure Delivery, Minister for Business, Minister for Population Growth, Minister for Australia First, Minister for Fair Work Accountability, Minister for Decreasing Corruption, Minister for Household Solar, Minister for Science and Transport, Minister for Australia-wide Driver's Licensing Centres, and Minister for MyGov Service Delivery under Republic of Australia Government. So also on trade and diversity, there's a free trade slide of direction at League for Republic Democracy of Australia in structure of rollout. So I'm current Chief President Harry J. Stiller. There'll be a free trade with the people of Argentina under our free trade slide of direction, a free trade with the people of Russia, maintaining free trade with the people of China, free trade with the people of Europe, and a free trade with the people of Mexico under our slide of direction, also outlawing Japanese trade. So trade and diversity slide of direction is under League for Republic Democracy of Australia, Chief President Harry J. Stiller, maintaining business, trade and diversity, establishment of new trade agreements, and ending the slave trade. So population growth slide of direction, League for Republic Democracy of Australia. So there'll be the complementary residential rollout for 17 million plus Australians to the 3 or 4 bedroom equivalent under the MyGov Service Delivery Platform, Minister for MyGov Services. You'll see MyGov Service Delivery. There'll be, you can see the building levels of construction, whether they from that photo in the structure of rollout slides of direction. you'll see the complementary residential rollout structure. All that will need to be is 3 or 4 times in length. So every suburb to 1 million more in population growth from within, giving stability and freedoms all Australians deserve. So there's a population growth slide of direction under League for Republic Democracy of Australia. I'm current Chief President Harry J. Stoll. Say that again. Every suburb to 1 million more in population growth from within, giving stability and freedoms all Australians deserve. So there's the 2019 election. I'm current Chief President Harry J. Stiller, lfdra.org. You can visit and read our future direction for Australia. This is League for Republic Democracy of Australia, current Chief President Harry J. Stiller. So there is Ministry, this is the Protection of Health and Long Life Ageing of Australians slide of direction for the Protection of Health portfolio. League for Republic Democracy of Australia, Chief President Harry J. Stiller. Protection of health, protection of long life ageing of Australians, and ending vicious chemical warfare favouritism, protection racket of non-integral chemical weaponry fortifications in Australia, ending chemical warfare, giving stability and freedoms all Australians deserve. And if you do decide to read the entire site and go through Mind Freedom Australia, you can see the way billionaire media moguls are in this country. And we will also have a minister for decreasing corruption, as 80% of the population and a lot of the facilitators in chemical warfare within Australia are invested heavily by bank green light property portfolios, and there's huge pharmaceutical industry marketing in commercial media in Australia, which is an absolute disgrace. And all the other political brands within Australia lobbied for 80% renting homelessness in Australia. That did not give stability to Australians. So under the MyGov service delivery platform for the complementary residential rollout, under a League for Republic Democracy of Australia government, so you walk into I don't know what the name of the place will be. There'll be a floor plan design. There'll be over in the first, so it's 1,000 millions to 450 complementary residential constructions. That each one will give up to 26 families to 13 families complementary residential ownership title documents for 17 million Australians under a League for Republic Democracy of Australia government, giving stability and freedoms all Australians deserve. So you can also in more, there's complementary residential, Australian wage minimum, solar power generation, age pensions, 8.5% tax rate, ministry portfolios, promotion, education slide, Australia, ending chemical warfare, Wentworth, mentality Liberal Labor, phasing out refined fuel, 2019 election, ending slavery, Australia, Film Finance Corp. I'll go to the Film Finance Corp. You can go through the slide on Film Finance Corp. That'll be under the Republic of Australia Broadcast Corporation. So you can go to more, you can go to Film Finance and you can see the slide on the aftermath of Changi, Singapore Changi. So outlawing Japanese trade, put Australia first, Mind Freedom Australia. There's the free trade slide and rollout slide of direction for opening up new free trade with other businesses on other businesses. Mind Freedom Australia, Registration Australia, our candidates, politics, more politics, sign up page, even more politics, down to more politics ×4, and there's other pages on the page. So for structure of rollout page, you can go more ×2, Republic of Australia, lfdra.org home, and long live Republic of Australia, long live League for Republic Democracy of Australia, and I'm current Chief President Harry J. Stiller, League for Republic Democracy of Australia. And before I do go today, it's an absolute disgrace the way the Liberal Party, the Labor Party, the National Party and the Greens have voted within Australia and lobbied for 80% renting homelessness. They haven't given the freedoms and given stability all Australians deserve. Long live League for Republic Democracy of Australia. Long live all Australians. And this is current Chief President Harry J. Stiller.